Republican candidate for president Dr. Ben Carson grilled again over controversial comments he made more than a week ago that he would not advocate electing a Muslim to the presidency. The retired neurosurgeon back on TV over the weekend, still facing media challenges to his position. But are the media playing favorites when it comes to these political hot potatoes? Let's bring in our media panel today. Alan Colmes, the host of The Alan Colmes Show, nationally syndicated by Fox News Radio. Tammy Bruce is a radio talk show host and a Fox News contributor. The media were back at it this weekend, asking Dr. Carson about those comments. Clearly, this is something that they feel is very important.
Well, obviously nothing else is going on in the world, right? And there's nothing else to ask Dr. Carson about. But let's remember that this is the kind of springing from the Donald Trump heckler moment. And I think a very important lesson about how to handle the media. You notice they're not going after Trump regarding that heckler, right? That was a very short-lived event. But what they've done is they've now begun to apply it to the other candidates with whom they think that they can harm, I believe, in this way. So Trump has not been having to deal with it, and that tells you that you can actually control the nature, take a certain position, not be harmed by it, and the media will respond accordingly. But I think this has been ultimately the kind of 2-for-1 for the media. They can affect the way that the Republicans are viewed and not have to talk about Hillary Clinton.
Let's take a quick look at a headline in the New York Post. Michael Goodwin wrote a column about this and suggested Exhibit A, Ben Carson versus Hillary Clinton. He said Carson should simply have dodged the question. That's what most political candidates do. What do you think about that, Alan?
Well, first of all, Hillary Clinton was on with Chuck Todd this weekend. Almost the entire interview was about her emails. So I reject the notion that somehow there's a double standard here. The email is not a real scandal. However, I know some people disagree with that. However, and in fact, the New York Times has a story today that she's not the subject of an FBI investigation, and there's no email that we know of that has compromised national security. Ben Carson said someone who observes the tenets of Islam should not be president. That is contrary to what our Constitution says. And if that's your view of our Constitution, you should be held accountable for that because you clearly don't have an understanding of how our government works and how our Constitution works.
But the question that Goodwin raised in his column is why aren't the media out there asking, you know, Joe Biden, if he's running or if he's not,
he's not running yet.
Well, all right. But the other Democratic presidential contenders, why aren't they asking Bernie Sanders what he thinks about Hillary's email problems?
Probably
because that's what they're doing with Trump and the Islam.
The email issue is a political witch hunt for people who don't want Hillary Clinton to be the nominee because they're afraid of her running for president, knowing she'll probably win. That's what this is about. To make this an issue with every other Democratic candidate, and okay, fine, ask them about it, fine with me. But Bernie Sanders, for one thing, has said, I'm not getting into personality conflicts. He's talking about issues. You've got Democrats who are focusing on actual issues in this campaign.
Alan's response, though, is a perfect example, is that there's this presumption in a partisan way that because the email scandal isn't, we're not going to ask other people or other people shouldn't be asked. I think that Ben Carson should be held to account because of his position, and the voters will decide. This daily 24/7 coverage and piling over like a big river of mud onto all of the other candidates also shows a partisan basis. If you're going to have an approach, if the media does, of asking other candidates about scandals or positions of the other candidates, then they should do the same with the Democrats unless there is a partisan bias and they're protecting the other candidates.
It's a huge hypothetical question at this point, so why get so involved in it?
Well, fine. I would ask them. I mean, if I were interviewing the other candidates, I'd be happy to ask them about Hillary Clinton's emails. Again, you've got a congressional committee looking at it. You've got, I mean, this has been going on for how long?
This brings up the other point. You said if you were interviewing the other candidates, who's talking to O'Malley? Who's talking?
I'll tell you what, I'm interviewing Jim Webb on radio today. I'll ask him about it.
Yeah,
How's that?
But see, you're talking to Jim Webb, but that's a very good point. The media is also not talking to any of Hillary's competition, are they? And I think that that's, you know, there's a lot of men trying to get some traction, and they're being ignored. Another sign of a partisanship that if you really were interested in what people thought, you would actually be interviewing those people.
I'll ask Jim Webb, and I have Lincoln Chafee on this week as well. I'll ask both of them about it.
Alan Colmes, the only one doing it.
Good for you. Alan Colmes, Tammy Bruce. Thank you both.
Thank you.